Well, speaking of that, Autumn, we're going to take a look at your 2024 bracket and break it down. While we get it pulled up on the screen here, you already posted it. How's the feedback so far?
Oh man, social media. You gotta love it.
Oh
You
yeah.
gotta love the comments. But if you're not having conversation around your bracket, what fun is that? But it was interesting to see how a lot of people, went with what I was going with for the final four picks. Obviously, not too much heat selecting South Carolina. That's kind of a given
No.
board for everyone. But the funniest comment I read yesterday, someone said, "Girl, you have Tennessee doing too much in your bracket." And I'm like, hold up. I am really high on the Bulls right now. They had to play South Carolina three times since February 15th. And I feel like those type of matchups, you're playing the best in the SEC, especially a championship caliber team in South Carolina. You should be prepared for March. You should be prepared for anything. And to take the Gamecocks to the wire the way they did in the semis in the SEC tournament, they almost got that one over South Carolina. The last matchup before that, they lost by single digits. The game before that was only decided by 11 points. They are right there, and I believe it starts and ends with Rickea Jackson in the game that she brings for them, whether that's inside, whether that's outside, you name it. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. But I have Tennessee going all the way up to the Elite Eight. So happy March to everyone. We'll see.
Well, take us through some of your other upset picks, maybe on the right side of the bracket. I think you have a little bit more in the top right and bottom right quadrant, but take us through some of those, walk us through your decisions, and then we'll eventually get to the final four.
All right, so some upsets in Albany too, which is a gauntlet over there. My goodness, Iowa being the second number one seed has the toughest route by far. I really feel like if they meet up against Princeton, if it's all said and done, that could be a tough one. Princeton
Yeah.
always comes in as a sleeper. They have the top 20 defense in the nation. Caitlin Chin has been incredible for them. And her entire career, she's been with Princeton. But that offense defense matchup, we'll see how it fares out. Iowa has the number one offense in the nation, but I feel like Princeton can challenge them. They just have to find a way to slow them down, especially in transition. So we'll see how that goes. Another one that is really like the actual upset alert for me would be possibly UNLV taking down Creighton, which obviously in the beginning I mentioned Creighton being that Cinderella team for previous years, but I really love what UNLV has done. I mean, consistently. And you look at, yes, their regular season, they dropped two games, but when it mattered the most, they won as the Mountain West champs. So we'll see how that goes. Desiree Young is a star, and she's consistently a star down low for UNLV. So they'll have to find a way to slow her down. Let's see some other upsets. Portland 3. Ooh, I really like what Auburn has done this season. This is a team that took down LSU during the regular season and shocked the nation. So we'll see if they can continue to shock the nation. They played LSU again in a rematch, and they only lost by single digits. So they held close with them again. So it wasn't a fluke that we saw. But Deasia Fair for Syracuse, it's going to be a tough battle to try to contain her. A lot of
Hmm.
people aren't talking about her enough, but she's actually the second active scorer on that all-time NCAA scoring list, right behind Caitlin Clark. So yes, she's going to be a star to watch out for and try to slow her down. I mean, when the game's on the line, she can put up buckets like it's nothing. But I feel like Auburn can get the best of that matchup when you look at that right side for my upsets. Another one, which really isn't much of an upset, but I just want to call this one out, UConn versus Ohio State. A lot of people, when you look at the comments,
Yeah.
Michaela, you were talking about, they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, all right, just watch. We saw it last year. How,
Calling
Yeah.
it.
yeah, but I do understand in that matchup, Paige Beckers wasn't there, and now they'll have her. But I still feel like the Buckeyes, that press, that 1-2-2, 2-2-1 press they constantly run is suffocating. They were at the time the number two team in the country before they lost to Iowa. And also they dropped an early one in the Big Ten tournament. I feel like they're going to come in with a chip on their shoulder. And what they've been able to do this season has been incredible. 15-game winning streak. Of course, those two losses cut it. But they bring in a lot of talent, and I think it starts with Cody McMahon. She's the X factor for this team.
So Ohio State headed to the Final Four and LSU making it out of that really tough region with Iowa. Why are you going with the Tigers over Iowa?
Okay, so when I look at the matchup, that's how I picked a lot of these. So, yes, you have Caitlin Clark and you have Hannah Stolke down low, but when I think about the talent across the board, I feel like the guard play balances when you look at Haley Vinlith, Flage, Michaela Williams, star-studded guard play for LSU. And then on the other side for Iowa, you have Caitlin Clark, of course, you have Kate Martin, and you have Gabby Marshall. They have been playing outstanding as of late, and that's been the big question mark. When Caitlin Clark is either scoring or not scoring, doesn't matter. She needs her teammates and that balance.
Mm.
But is the supporting cast going to step up? They proved that in the Big Ten tournament, so I trust them more than I did in the beginning of the season to get the job done as a whole this year. But when you look at the post play, you have Hannah Stolke, who's not a true center, but she has been able to shine in that role for Iowa. She's fast, she's quick, she used to run track. She helps Iowa push that pace that they love to run. And then you had look on the other side, and there's an Angel Reese, who we all know the talent that she brings on that offensive board. She loves to be, active on the glass. She has a knack for rebounding that's tough to contain. And then you add Anissa Morrow, who a lot of people didn't know her game being on DePaul last year. She's waking everyone up and said, hey, I'm here and I'm here to produce at a high level. And that tandem, that 1-2 tandem down low is going to be tough to contain. So when I look at the matchup across the board, I don't think, Iowa can kind of slow down these two down low when it's all said and done. And last year you had Monica Sonano and McKenna Warnock. This year you lose that, and LSU just got better this year. They revamped, they reloaded, and I feel like that's going to be tough to guard.
All right, but still, either way, if we get that matchup, it's going to be really great. Just a rematch of the championship last season. And then you've got South Carolina cutting down nets. Don't need to explain that one too much. You've said it again and again.
No, I mean, the number one team from start to finish, a lot of people question them as well. Losing a starting five and having that next wave of talent wait for their name to be called. They stepped up and now they're here. They have rose to the occasion and there's been no drop off. So like you mentioned, not too much to go into detail for that. I just love the offense that they've brought this year. They can score in a variety of ways. And we look up matchups, as I mentioned, across the board, the luxury that Dawn Staley has of, taking out her starting five and then reloading, putting in a whole new five, and they can still keep that pace going in that versatile play. Like who can match up against that?
Autumn, before we move on from your bracket, what was the toughest to pick? What'd you spend the most time on?
Oh, what didn't I spend? So I'm the most I'm the most indecisive person in the world. So this one actually
Me too.
minute, yes. But honestly, I would say anything in that Albany 2 region in Portland 4. But since we haven't touched on Portland 4 that much, I'll go into that because I just feel like that region's so wide open when it's all said and done. But with Texas and Final Four, I feel like Vic Schaefer, I mean, we saw him go back to back in the Elite Eight. They're due for a Final Four run. That Texas fight, that Texas defense is suffocating. They lost Rory Harmon, but the way Madison Booker has been able to step up as a freshman, I keep on talking about this freshman class. My goodness, they're so good, and the games keep going with them. But the way she's been able to take charge of this team, they've only lost 4 with her. She hasn't shied away from the moment. I feel like they can take it a long way, but they got some tough opponents to go up against if they want to make it to that Final Four.
All right. Well, there's your bracket. Of course, we're two people that are super indecisive and we have to make brackets all the time. So that's just great for us. All right, Autumn. I do want to get you to give your bracket tips, though, for fans that want to fill out their bracket on the women's side. It's a lot different than the men's bracket. So if you can give us some tips, we would love it.
Yes, completely different. We saw the most upsets in that 2022 tournament. There were 7 in that. So not a lot of upsets as usual on the men's side, but still great games and close games as well. But when it's hard picking a bracket overall. So I have 5 tips for you. Of course, for my tip, You have to double up on the one seeds. And we've seen history kind of back that up with the number one seeds receiving 22 times that championship ring. And for the two seeds, they've had it 4 times. So you want to bet on those 1 or 2 seeds for sure. Definitely for the one seeds. Obviously, South Carolina has a 1 seed right now, and a lot of people picking them. I'm going with them. So history could repeat itself again. However, anything can happen in March. We saw a 3 seed win it all
Hmm.
last year in LSU. So, like I mentioned, you can't be wrong if you pick anyone, but I would go with South Carolina if I was you. For my second bracket tip, I would focus on the Elite Eight. And my strategy is always picking the 2 strongest out of the region and advancing forward and then kind of move accordingly because you're not going to typically see a double-digit seed make it that far. We haven't seen that in history just yet, but someone can shock us this year. We'll see how the path goes for everyone. But you want to make sure that you're picking your 2 strongest to advance into the Elite Eight. And then for my third tip, don't get too Cinderella crazy. As I mentioned, there were 7 upsets in that 22 tournament, but that we don't typically see that. Even the following year, we didn't see 7 upsets. So that story typically ends in the Sweet 16. For my fourth tip, look to the number 11 and number 12 seeds, and that's pretty much reflected in my bracket that I went for some 11 seeds. And when you even look at a Middle Tennessee, who's an 11 seed this year, they can knock some teams out. They knocked off Tennessee during the regular season. You look at Auburn, who I mentioned could come in and make some noise over Syracuse.
Mhm.
Green Bay, that offense that they have, they like to shoot the lights out. They could take down Tennessee and Texas A&M. I have Nebraska going over them, but they can't be counted out, especially for the experience they had in the SEC. So I would go more so for the 11 seeds over the 12 seeds, but those are two of the upset seeds you want to go against. And then also last year, we even saw how St. John's came in from the first 4, almost took down North Carolina and gave them a scare. And FGCU actually got it done as an 11 seed, taking down number 6, Washington State. So history kind of backs itself up. And for my last tip, just have fun with it because it's pretty much impossible to have a perfect bracket. And yes, there's tons of history that backs it up, but you got to fill out as much brackets as you can. Just have fun with it. Go with your gut. And as your heart desires, pick whoever you want in the Final Four and as your champion. So the possibilities are endless and the fun is endless. So just go with your gut.